The number one guy on this list, and again, this is probably me doing a lot of heavy lifting because this is a guy that I have mentioned time and time and time again. And if you are a active listener of Tip of the Ice-Burgh, somebody that listens in every week, you know who I'm going to say already. And that's Max Domi, center/right wing, projected to make $3.6 million over the next 2 years. I see no downside, personally, to bringing in Max Domi to set the standard for the Penguins' bottom six, to start that identity of the Penguins' bottom six. And if all things work out and one of Jaeger, which, again, very unlikely, but Jaeger, maybe a Poulin, maybe a Ponomarev, if one of them are ready to be that third-line center, you can bounce him to wing, and he can go up and down the lineup. It seems like a Mike Sullivan type of guy. I just think for that price, 2 years at $3.6 million, bring in Domi, slot him in at third-line center to start the year, and go Crosby, Malkin, Domi, Eller, and you're working with some really solid depth down the middle.
Yeah, that's called cooking with gas. That is absolutely turning up the heat, especially on your center depth. I didn't realize his projections coming in that low. I feel like he's definitely going to go for more than that, but especially if you have to try and pry him out of Toronto. I forget what the most recent situation was there. But if he's hitting the market, if he's going to go to free agency, I'd say he's a guy that the Penguins absolutely should be targeting, especially if the projection's that low, especially if the years are that short. I mean, the Penguins aren't necessarily a team looking for, despite the Ryan Graves signing last year, they're not a team that's really looking for long-term scenarios. They shouldn't be looking for long-term relationships here. It should just be guys that are 2-3 years max, maybe a fourth, depending on the player, because they have to honestly just figure out what's going on with Sidney Crosby. How much longer does he want to play, or can he play? I mean, we know Malkin's probably gone in 2 years. The Chris Letang situation's going to get interesting. Hate to say that, but it's going to. Carlson's around a little bit, but older, so who really knows? And the Penguins are just in such a weird situation that they can't commit long-term to guys. Max Domi, if he's only going for 2 years, perfect. Come in, play a couple years, maybe stays for a third if he wants. And by that point, the Penguins should be ready to completely overturn everything. And at a low price, he'll bring quite a bit of punch to the lineup. It's a good win-win situation as long as he's affordable and plays anywhere near what he's projected to.
The one name you mentioned there was Evgeny Malkin. 2 years left on his contract. Heavily expected and speculated upon that he is going to be done after those 2 years. There's your window. You have 2 years to win a Stanley Cup with Evgeny Malkin and Sidney Crosby. I like Max Domi as your third-line center. And if you want to bring in another third-line center, I don't mind Max Domi bumping over to wing for $3.6 million either.